You're listening to Gearing Up, an Everyday Carry podcast, a show that's made for the community, featuring interviews with makers, creators, and members of the community, and discussions on current trends in the industry. Follow along as we talk about life, gear, hobbies, and more. And be sure to stay tuned for new episodes every week. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Gearing Up. Today, I'm joined by my friend, a creator, a maker in the everyday carry space, someone that I'm very, very excited to feature. Taylor, how are you, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to be here. It's been a long time since I kind of took almost a 2-year break off of the
I
EDC
know.
world, and it feels good to be back finally.
It's crazy. Yeah. So, and I in preparation for this, I was typing up some notes and I was going through and I was thinking like, man, how much time did he take off? And it was funny because I was scrolling through your Instagram and there was a post where you were like, hey, I've been gone for a minute. And that was even before this most recent gap. So we'll get to that. I want to talk about kind of your path in the community and in the space, but before we jump into that, for those that don't know, Taylor is the T in TRA Designs. You are, I would say, a staple in the community, somebody that I've been following for a very, very long time. And so, what I wanted to do to start this off is for TRA Designs, just for those that don't know what it is, don't know who you are, give me like an elevator pitch of you and the company and what you do and all that stuff.
Perfect. So like Greg said, I'm the T in TRA Design. So this all began about 2014, if I remember right. I started kind of collecting what really got me into it was key bar, is where I started kind of collecting the EDC stuff. And I thought, I'm going to make something. So I was actually working with Ryan and Andrew. They own Tomahawk Shades. So that's where the TRA comes from, Taylor, Ryan, and Andrew. Well, we kind of discussed what would be cool. I came up with the idea of a Chameleon. I started drawing it out. I started doing the CAD design. I sent it off to get the prototypes cut, and they got too busy. At that point, the name was kind of already there, so I kept it. But kind of my staple piece is Chugger the Chameleon. So he's a bottle opener. Opens bottles with the mouth for most of them. The tail was initially, intended to be a nuck. But as I've morphed into my 2.0, the tail now opens twist top bottles. They're fully CNC machined as far as the 2.0s go. I've also had knives done. I make pry bars. I do a lot of anodizing. That's kind of been a big thing that's gotten me back into this here after my long break with the anodizing, doing my splash ano, which people just seem to love. I've got a run sitting on my bench over here with about 40 pieces I'm actually going to start tonight. So that's kind of been the big thing. And really what got me into anodizing is I reached out to somebody, not to mention any names, that anodized. Sure. So this would have been probably 2016. That was about the time I started. And I was looking at getting a set of knife scales done. So he was going to take the knife. He was going to anodize the scales. He was going to sharpen it and send it back to me. And I got a quote for $160. And I said, yeah, no, I can buy my own power supply for $200 and get going and start figuring this out on my own. So that's really when I started anodizing. So I do a lot of ano now. And usually when people contact me about doing anodizing for a set of knife scales or something like that, my price range is normally $15 to $30 for a set.
Yeah.
Even for my splash, which is very time consuming, but if I'm doing a big group, that makes it easy. And people are always like, man, why are your prices so low? And I tell them that story. Like, I don't ever want to be that person that charges above just because, maybe my splash is known for this. So I'm going to start charging $70 to have stuff splashed. That's not me. I don't do this for the money. I do it for the community. This EDC community they've come together in some huge ways. I've done some awesome good cause auctions, some raffles and things like that, where we've helped out orphanages in Haiti. We've helped out friends that are adopting. We've helped out friends that have lost family, and that's really what it's all about for me. Sure, a little extra money on the side helps with, especially with everything going on now and us in the middle of an adoption
Yeah.
ourselves. All that extra helps, but it's definitely not the reason I got into it. I got into it for the people and for the community, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think that that's, I feel like that's pretty common. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely
Mhm.
some people that I know of that, try they want to make it a side hustle or they want to make it a main gig. But
Yeah.
yeah, I will say in my experience and working with you and knowing you for the last couple of years, that's definitely been your MO. It's just been to do it for the love of it and do it for the folks in the community. And truth be told, I started tinkering around in the garage just for that same reason.
Yep.
I if I'm confident enough to work with my hands, I can do it. There's enough resources and tutorials out there that you can walk yourself through a lot of this stuff. Now, that's not to take away from the folks that
No, not at all.
master some of these crafts, but yeah, I mean, what I love is your story comes from just a we wanted to do something cool. We went forward with it, and then I wanted to figure out, hey, how to anodize, and now you've not only taken and learned, but also kind of crafted your signature finish. Like that's
Mhm.
to me that's super cool. So
And it's
love
definitely not
seeing
for
that.
everybody. It's super bright, which I love.
Right,
I love the
right,
super
right.
bright colors and things like that. If I'm carrying something, I want it to be unique and I want it
Yeah.
to be your own. And that's what the awesome thing is with Splash is every single piece is unique because I'm just
Oh, for sure.
randomly splattering nail polish on there to stop the etch on, or stop
Yeah.
the anodizing on those colors. So it's a fun process.
So you mentioned this a little bit just then, but I want to take an even further step back. I love letting people get to know the folks behind these brands, these companies, and stuff. And so you one thing that I admire about you, and I think we relate, is you're a big family guy.
Mhm.
You've got some kids. You mentioned you guys are in the middle of adopting. So tell me a little bit about you before TRA Designs. Like what
Yeah.
and see, I'm asking all these questions. I know most of these answers because we've talked before, but
Yeah.
I want people to know. So
Yep.
tell me a little bit about you before Everyday Carry and TRA Designs.
Yeah, definitely. So I was actually I was born and raised in Alaska, of all
Hmm.
places, which is we love it. We were just there last week. My wife and my family went there. So I grew up there, born and raised there.
Yeah.
Moved out in 2003. I joined the military. I joined the Air Force. Spent 5 years active duty Air Force. Got to live in Germany for 3 years. I mean, how amazing is that? We loved
Right.
it. Got to travel. I think we've been to close to 30 countries. My wife and I
Wow.
each. She's been to a couple I didn't get to go to. I went to a couple. The fun ones like Iraq and
Sure.
the one she didn't get
Right.
to go to, where it's 128
Right.
degrees when you step off the plane. But
Oh god.
so we moved. I got out of the military in 2008 and moved back to Alaska and immediately started in the oil field there. So this whole time that we had been in the military, my wife and I had been trying to have kids.
Yeah.
No luck. We I don't shoot. I don't even know how many miscarriages we've been through. Probably close to a dozen. Um, and we saw it's actually an old family friend that was a doctor in Alaska, and we went through 3 rounds of in vitro with him,
Mhm.
um, and he actually, which is pretty amazing, he actually comped our third round with everything going
Wow.
on. He wasn't, they weren't sure what was going on with it. They do everything, they fertilize the eggs, and they would just fall apart. So they weren't really sure what was
Wow.
going on. So he said, "This round's on me. We're going to do it." And at this time, I'm just fresh out of the military, not making much. I'm working in the oil field in Alaska as a roustabout. So
Yeah.
that was amazing, and that's the one that stuck. So
Yeah.
my daughter Miley, she's 10 years old now. So she is our first child, born through in vitro. Um, Through that process, we had a couple frozen eggs, so we tried to put those back in. And again, failed. So we were just okay.
Yeah.
Hey, we're only gonna ever have one kid. We're okay with that.
Yeah.
Kind of stress was off, and then immediately we have our first son, and that's my son Andrew. He just turned 8 about a month ago. Um,
Man.
Amazing, huge heart, just a great kid. And then 2 years later, we decided, hey, we're going to try again. Very first time we try, boom, there's our second son,
Man.
Easton, and he's 6 years old. So I've got Easton who's 6, Andrew who's 8, and Miley who's 10. So I've got 3 amazing children. Um, so we were living in Alaska at the time after having my second child, Andrew. When he was 6 months old, I worked for a company named Marathon Petroleum. So
Uh-huh.
big petroleum, big pipeline company. Um,
Yeah.
so this would have been in 2010. No, sorry, 2012. 6 months after my son was born, they announced that they're selling everything in Alaska. So
Wow.
here we go. So I got a 6 month old, I got a 2 year old, and we're moving to Illinois, a place where I have never been in my life.
Right.
So I used to come down for training to Ohio quite a bit. So I
Mhm.
was come down one trip and they said, hey, why don't you drive over to Illinois and see if it's somewhere you'd be interested in moving? There's a position open
Yeah.
there. With everything going on, we want to offer you that position. And I went over there and there was just so many things that fell into place where it was just right. That was the right time.
Yeah.
That was the right opportunity. Moving away from it, all my family's in Alaska. So moving away from my family, my wife's family, to move most of the way across the United States to somewhere we've never been was kind of scary. But we did with 6 months old in tow, and we moved into the Robinson. We were there for 6 years. We fell in love with the place. Absolutely loved it. I could do without some of the Illinois stuff, but overall, we love that community.
Yeah.
Just a great community. Fell in love with the church there. Became connected with the youth and things like that. So we worked a lot with our youth group there. We're both small
Yeah.
group leaders, my wife and I. So got really close with the church there, and that's where my third son was born, or my third child was born. My son Easton was born in Illinois. So
Yeah.
we were there for 6 years, and I had the opportunity to take another job at our headquarters here in Findlay, Ohio. So this was just about 18 months ago. So we
And the
packed
move
up and moved,
begins.
and yep, now we're here in Findlay, Ohio, and same thing. We're going to fit in wherever we're at. We love it. Found
Yeah.
a good church community, made a good group of friends. We're in a great neighborhood, so we've been getting together through all this COVID stuff, doing some social distancing, cul-de-sac parties.
Yeah.
We live at the end of a cul-de-sac, so we all 6 feet apart and hang out and
Shoot,
have
you
a few
can't beat
brews.
that.
And we let's see, yesterday morning we cooked breakfast, so we had 4 families out there sitting social
Yeah.
distanced and eating breakfast together. So it's been a
Man.
really cool opportunity. I do love my job. I work in our regulatory group now. I deal with it sounds really boring, but it's called operator qualification. So government says you have to be qualified to perform certain tasks on a
Yeah.
pipeline due to their safety sensitivity and things like that. So I run that whole program for Marathon Petroleum. I think we have about 40,000 employees. I only have about, well, with our current Endeavor transition, I think I have about 4,000 employees in my operator qualification program that I
Wow.
manage. So it's kind of a cool process. I really just keep the process running and make changes as needed. Look at what's going on in the industry, where we need to make changes, where we need to maybe accept a little risk and allow people to do a little more work, things like that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a cool job. I have I was a mechanic for 8 years for the pipeline, so I have that experience coming into this. So that's been helpful, and I've been OQ'd as a Marathon employee, and I was OQ'd as a contractor, prior to working for Marathon. So really, I feel like my background set me up for this. But
Yeah.
it's been a long journey. But shoot, we've been here 18 months. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. We absolutely love it. Kids are thriving here. Unfortunately, all this crazy COVID stuff going on right now is kind of throwing a wrench
Yeah.
into things. But
It definitely changes things, right?
yeah, it does. So we're currently trying to figure out the homeschool versus sending the kids to school thing right now. Whether my wife's going to try to manage homeschooling three children in
God
three
bless
different
her.
grades.
God
Whew,
bless her if she
I don't
does.
think I
You
could
know,
do it.
listen, and I'll say we had to make the decision, and we're down in South Texas, where
Hmm.
Texas initially wasn't getting hammered very hard, and now it's
Yep.
it's it's really kind of starting to pick up down here. And so our son, my wife was having a hard time this morning because our son was supposed to start. It's like pre-K.
Yeah.
There's a Christian school down there, and he was going to go a couple days a week, and that's always exciting for him to try new things. And we made the decision that we'll wait another year, or they've got some stuff starting in the spring that's a possibility. So we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely been crazy. But man, it sounds like you guys are, you went in head first and just have really found your groove. So
We
that's
did.
that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, if you would have told me 10 years ago that we were going to live in Illinois and in Ohio, I would have called you crazy.
Right?
Not in my wheelhouse at all. I plan to move back to Alaska and stay there. And
Yeah.
apparently, goes to show you can't plan. It's just
Yeah.
it's going
No,
to
for
work out how it
sure.
works out. You just got to kind of roll with the punches and make it work. So
So what do whether it was the neighbors in Illinois or the folks that you guys are living near now, like
Mhm.
since you guys have kind of started to spend time together, do they know about your side hustle? Do they what do you tell them about
Yeah.
everyday carry and Chugger the chameleon?
So about 3 years ago, I got my first 3D printer, which I bought a Prusa, and I
I
absolutely love it.
love that thing. Yes.
So I've started printing all kinds of 3D printed bottle openers. I hand them out to my neighbors left and right,
Yeah.
and they love them. I mean, so they've kind of gotten into it a little bit there. But I've gotten a lot of my friends that normally would not have been into any of this stuff. They'd be more into the $50 knives, and they're not knocking anything with a $50 knife. But
Sure.
you get your use out of it. That's absolutely great. Um,
Yeah.
but in a collector's market, I've got friends that are now doing that. They're buying the titanium pens and titanium flashlights and having me anodize them for them
Man,
and wanting me to make knives
Chugger the
for them, things like
gateway
that. yeah,
Chugger the
yeah.
gateway chameleon. My
It's
god.
it's got. I think I've gotten a lot of people into it just from that, which is kind of crazy. And really, I mean, you look at my design from when I started, it really hasn't changed much.
No,
I've
no, it
gotten a little
hasn't.
bit bigger, but I've had that staple. So when I took those 2 years off, I was a little worried that it was just going to be dead. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
shoot, I came back and people apparently still like me, even
Yeah,
though I've
so
been
that
gone for most of 2 years.
so that's, and of course one of the things I wanted to touch on is that kind of gap, that absence, but and
hmm
everything you just explained with your job, I mean, it makes total sense why you kind of shifted some focus. And I know,
hmm
like I said, family's super important to you. I know that, so completely understandable, but you did not miss a beat. You come back, you make a drop, and now everything's selling out like crazy. You're doing pre-orders, and they're going. So it blows my mind, but it just goes to show you that a good design can go a really long way. And
Yep.
again, something that is so unique, like the chameleon, like that. That's something that you don't have to be an everyday carry person or fan to think, oh, hey, that actually does look kind of cool, and it's
hmm
pocketable, or it's something I can throw on a key ring or something.
Yeah.
So that design resonates with more than just the gearheads that you and I talk to a lot. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep, I agree, and that's where I think my mini comes in, and those sell really well. And that's you throw it on a keychain, you kind of forget about it for a while. Maybe for most of my people that don't normally collect that stuff, you kind of forget about it for a little bit, and like, oh wait, I have a bottle opener, it's on the keychain. So
Yeah,
so I think that's been really good for those people that aren't really big into collecting things, that just want to have something kind of cool to show people every now and then. And really word of mouth is where I get most of my business. It's all Instagram is my main staple, but just other people talking to others, and I get a lot of people messaging me saying, hey, this guy told me you did this for him, you anodized this for him, would you be interested in doing it for me? And that's where a lot of my work comes from, besides my actual drops, of my different
yeah,
material chuggers. So
yeah. And speaking of different materials, so one of the things that I wanted to bug you about is really, you've got the Chugger, you've got the V2s, and
mhm.
lately you've been doing a bunch of ano work. I mean, what's on the horizon right now that you're working on that you want to share? I mean, anything exciting coming up, or really
So
just
not
kind
a
of
lot
still finding that
of
groove, getting
yeah,
back
not a
into it?
lot of new designs. I do have a couple new designs I'm kind of working on. One of them, so it kind of looks like a rocket. It's actually a two-piece bottle
Yeah.
opener. I was hoping to hook it with magnets, but I think it's going to actually be a screw. So the fins will face
Hmm.
180 out, so it'll actually kind of look 3D. I had been working on it with some people a while back, and kind of got put on the back burner. I 3D printed a few just to see how they'll do, but
Hmm.
I want to get a prototype of that cut. I do have some my mega bottle breachers, the MBB, the big pry bar. I
Yeah.
have some of those that are being cut right now through Spectrum Energetics, awesome water jet company, and CNC company out of Pennsylvania. That's kind of who I very first began getting everything cut by, is Spectrum Energetics. They've been great to work with. Um, so I have some of those coming. I don't know
Hmm.
when. I actually need to message them because I think
Right.
I'm a couple weeks out. I've got some brass 2.0s coming. I haven't done any 2.0s kind of since my return after a couple years. I've kind of stuck with the
Yeah.
OGs and the minis. So I do have some of those coming as well. And that's EDC Machining is the one that's cutting those. And he's just blown up and he is so busy.
Yeah.
So I'm working with him to figure out when that run's going to be complete. I know we're pretty far behind on that one right now, but he's been pretty swamped, and I told him, hey, it's no big rush. I'll
Yeah.
get them when I get them. So it's those are coming. I'm really trying to figure out my 3D printer right now, and that's been that's been my
Yeah.
biggest and most frustrating thing right now is I'm switching to a really small nozzle size so I can get more detail
Uh-huh.
for the skeleton 3D printed chameleons, so I can get the small bones and things like that on it. And that's been what I've been fighting right and left. I'm hoping I got some parts coming in today and I can get it back up and running and print some runs, because I only got to do 2 full runs of those, and they
Yeah,
sold out. Um, the first one sold out in 2 minutes, and I think the second one sold out in 7 minutes on
man.
my site. So I'd like to get some
Yeah.
more of those going. I know people love them, and they're a cheap option to get into EDC items with the 3D printed. I always tell people I don't recommend a 3D printed for extended use to beat on. It's plastic. You got to think of it that
Right.
way. It'll open a bottle great, the mouth will. Eventually, that mouth's going to chip out because you
Mhm.
put metal on plastic. It's going to do it. The tail for twist top bottles should work forever. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll hold up. I'm printing them in PETG and ABS, which are two of the better materials to be printing them in. I'm not
Mhm.
printing anything in PLA anymore, so it's only those two materials. ABS is the best, but it's a lot harder to print. So I'm hoping to have in the next few weeks a couple runs of those and some awesome new
Yeah.
colors, because I think I've only done 2 colorways, and I've had a lot of people asking for glow and for green, and I ordered some
Oh,
blue and
man.
red that's coming in as well.
Yes.
So hopefully that'll all be in today, and I'll try to get my new nozzle on and get my printer back up and running and print some millions this week. So that'll be
Yeah,
fun.
you've got a deadly combination of being skilled in CAD and having a 3D printer, because I think that's where a lot of these guys, like, there's tons of people that are in the hobby that
Hmm.
maybe have an idea, or really want to see something come to life, and you have kind of gotten the tools to make that happen, and print
Yeah.
prototypes and tweak things, and you get on Thingiverse and spend a whole day on there finding things
Oh,
to
it's
print.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
um so yeah, I mean, and you were one of the first folks that I knew about that had a 3D printer, and so I mean, it is cool to see some of those designs, like you said, come to a more affordable,
Hmm.
footprint, and still have the design aesthetics, the functionality, the cool factor, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I mean, that's cool to see. That excites me to know that you're putting some extra time and effort into that, because yeah, those printed ones have been extremely cool to see. I have a couple of the mini ones somewhere,
Yeah, and I did a
laying around
run.
in them.
Shoot, it's probably been 2 years. It was before my break. I did a run where I actually embedded neodymium magnets inside, so you could stick
Mhm.
it on your fridge as
Yep.
a magnet and pull it off and
Yes.
open bottles with it. That is coming back. I've got to get back into that. The magnets aren't super cheap, so I need to just get that back down and get those printed again, because people love those. And even had a pull tab slot on the head when I did that
Yeah.
one. So I need to get back to printing those and getting those going. So I'm really hoping to. And I am by no means a master in CAD. I do a lot of tracing and extruding, and I'm figuring it out. I'm barely scratching the surface. I use Fusion 360, and I'm using probably one hundredth of what that software can do, and but it's fun. Like I said, I've done some stuff for some other makers that they'll send me a design, and I'll kind of draw. They'll send me just a hand drawing, and I'll put it into CAD and
Yeah.
I'll extrude it and make it work. I did one for Rabid Weasels. This is a little weasel that stands up. When he
Yeah.
first started doing that opener, so I sent him a few of those. I 3D printed some for him, helped him get it into CAD, and now he's having them cut out of metal. So
Yeah.
I love doing that. If people want me to do their designs, that's something I enjoy, because you're making something from nothing. You're taking a drawing, and then you have a usable prototype in hand, which is just so cool. And
Yeah.
that's really what got me into 3D printing. We did a tour of a facility there. I lived in Robinson, Illinois, and it's a tiny town. There's about 4,000 people. Um,
Mhm.
and outside of Robinson, there is a shop out there, and I'm going to draw a blank on their name, but they make drones for the military. I mean, just a
Okay.
cool business. They make them start to finish. They make their own carbon fiber. They do everything. So
Wow.
comes in, they just start with materials, and out of their factory goes a usable drone. It's one of those that they launch with like the trailers. They put them on a trailer and actually launch them that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff. But one of the guys that was working in there, so they actually have their own big industrial 3D printers they do stuff with.
Ooh.
One of the guys in there had a Prusa, and he showed me it was like one of Prusa's regular files. It's a Dragon. He showed that to me. I'm like, man, I want to make one of those. And about 6 months later, I got the same, well, almost the same printer he was. It was the next version came out, and I bought that. And
Mhm.
shoot, since then I don't remember how many hours it said I had on my printer. Around 4,000 hours of print time on my printer before I did my last upgrade, which wiped everything because it's all new software
Yeah.
with the new hot end and everything. So now I don't know where I was at, but it doesn't really matter. It's just cool that really with minimal upkeep until recently with me trying to make changes, I was
Mhm.
able to print that many hours on $1,000 machine.
Yeah.
You can get printers today for $200
Yeah.
and a
I've
great option
considered
for
it.
home. The Ender 3 from Creality is a great. People love it, and it's you can get it for like 179. I'm like, I don't know how more people aren't 3D printing. I think 3D printing in home is going to become a staple in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I think a lot more people are going to be doing it. So when you need a drawer handle, you need something like that, you can just print it out. And 3D printing metal is going to become a lot bigger too. There's a lot of issues with that right now, but I think as that technology increases, you'll be able to do a lot
Yeah.
more in home with a 3D printer.
It just seeing them in action and seeing I I've ordered, I've had you print me a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
I've ordered some stuff online, and man, and to think that like niche product that like nobody
Yep.
really needs but you kind of need, like to be
There's
able
lots of stuff like that.
to be able to do things like that, on a
Yeah.
larger scale is really cool, I think. And
Yeah.
to your point, yeah, I mean, we I know you've said like the Chugger and the V2 and all that stuff. There's not been a ton of change, but
Mm-hmm.
the thing is if you wanted to make change, if you wanted to try something different, I mean, and whether it's a completely new design or just some tweaks, you've got the tools in house to make those tweaks, print
Exactly.
out a proto, and you've got it in hand, and you can, because for me, I'm a hands-on kind of person when it comes to like design and aesthetics and feel like you can send me pictures and mock-ups and all that stuff, and I get it, but then when
Yep.
I have it in hand, obviously it's a little different, and so obviously the 3D printer helps with that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And I print a lot of stuff that's just useless, but it's fun. I print stuff for my kids. They break it, different things like that. I think the
Yeah.
coolest thing I've printed so far, I've got that Master Chief helmet that I've slowly been working on for the last few years. I haven't really done anything with it
The
for most of that
150-hour
time.
print job
Yep,
or
150
more.
hours. It's like 32 pieces. So then you have to glue them all together, and then you're bondoing and you're cleaning. And so I'm in that process right now of bondoing and sanding, and eventually I'll get back to it. It's just not a priority with everything
Sure.
else going on in my life right now. But it's a fun hobby. I mean, you can put as much time in it as you want to, or you could put no time into it. You hit print, you walk away, you come back 12 hours later, and you got stuff sitting on the print bed. You go
Yeah.
into thingiverse.com and there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of files that are free to print. There's you can about anything you can think of is on there.
Oh
You can
yeah.
print yourself.
Oh
So I
yeah.
mean, you don't have to design your own stuff, but that's the part of it I love. It's designing my own stuff, printing my own things. So I actually plan after I get my printer back together, I plan to print some of my pry bars just to have a printed version since I have a hard time holding on to anything. So I've sold
Right.
all of my pry bars. I don't even have my own pry bars. I don't have any of my own exotic material
That's
chameleons.
funny.
I don't hardly hold on to anything. The only thing I really have, I've got an OG stainless and copper that Evil Eyes did the dinosaur
Mhm.
bones on for me. And then I've
Yeah.
got my prototype 2.0, and those are the only three chameleons I currently have.
Man.
Which I've done them
And
in, I
I
want to
guess,
say 30 materials. So,
well, and I guess as a maker, like, I mean, do
yeah,
you need to keep one? Do you need to be sentimentally attached
you
to
don't.
one
No,
specific?
and
You
I'm
could just
not.
make another one if you needed to.
Exactly.
Um,
They're things, and that's that's what this all comes down to. They're things. I love them. It's great. It's an awesome hobby. I love collecting, but when it all comes down to it, does any of it really? You can't take any of it with you. So does it all really
right.
matter that much? I love it. I mean, I collect knives. I collect all that stuff, and it's a blast. But it's a hobby. It's not my
Yeah.
life. It's just something fun to do, and I enjoy it.
Yeah. Man, so you've done, the Chugger, you mentioned the MBB,
Hmm.
my personal favorite, the Bop.
Yeah.
I love
Beverage
the
opening pie
OG
bar. Yep.
Pry.
Yep.
Um, I love those, and then obviously, you've been doing a lot of Anna work with, um, God, I what the you've been doing a bunch of flashlights. I can't remember the
Yep.
name.
Mech Force.
Yeah, so tell me about that. How did that come to be?
So I actually had a buddy who um, kind of works with MechForce. I don't think he's one of the founders. I know he works with the company, but he's
Uh-huh.
kind of a distributor for them as well. And he reached out to me about possibly becoming a distributor for the lights. With
Mhm.
everything going on, COVID going on, I just couldn't shell out the funds up front to buy a bunch of them and sell myself. And looking back now, I wish I would have, because they've done
Sure.
very well. But so he actually connected me with Fort Henry Custom Knives out of Tennessee, and Fort Henry has been absolutely awesome to work with. So he
Yeah.
has sent me a bunch of lights to work on. I mean, the faith he has in me to send me 40 lights,
Yeah.
at 180 to $200 a piece. And I've got them sitting right here in my shop next to me, to, start anodizing. I've been adding mini chameleons with them, and I kind of mocked up a few different ones. I was just kind of picking out random styles to begin with to see
Yeah.
what he thought. And he went with a few different designs. So I think I initially started by doing a dozen of them and sending to him, four of each of three different designs. Send them to
Mhm.
him. I believe he still has maybe one of those on hand, but the other ones have sold. But the most popular has been the Splash. I think I've sold 10 Splash already,
Oh,
um,
for sure.
which has been pretty awesome. I'm actually in my pile over here of stuff I need to anodize starting tonight. I've got a couple of those flashlights I'm going to anodize. I might throw a couple more just to throw on the site, and see if, because I've had some others asking. But so MechForce just changed their pocket clip design. So this one has
Mhm.
a straight style pocket clip, where the new ones go to, the same pocket clips that barrel flashlights use, and all the rest of those companies
Okay.
use, where the screws are
Yeah.
side by side. So they've
Yeah.
gone to that so that you can use any of your aftermarket clips that are,
Ooh,
exotic materials that you have for those other lights. You can swap them onto the MechForce lights,
very
which is awesome.
nice.
I mean, trying to be more universal with it. I love the lights. They're, built in. They're fully programmable when you get them. They got rechargeable batteries. You do have to buy a separate charger, but the batteries that come
Uh-huh.
with it are rechargeable. Just a
Nice.
great light. I really wasn't sure, because it's such a low price point to get into, a custom light like this. Um,
Right.
you look at some of the barrel lights and some of those others and how much they go for, even standard ones that are coming direct from the maker. They're not
Uh-huh.
anywhere near that 180 to 200 range for full copper or
Not at
full
all.
titanium. So I will say, MechForce is no longer going to make the copper lights. So if people like copper lights, you better get them now, because they're only going to go to titanium after this. So
Yeah.
just FYI for
Dang.
anybody that's looking for lights. I
But
do
that
have some copper
opens
ones here. I think I'm going to send him back to Fort Henry, and he's going to hold on to them. So
nice. Well, titanium opens some doors for you. That lets you play around with a few more and continue cranking out some of those different color combos. I like seeing that, and I love the idea of throwing in like a mini chugger with them. I think that's super cool. Um,
yeah.
with regards to the chugger, I mean, you have anything uh planned to do any more exotics or anything crazy, or is there anything you haven't worked with that you want to?
There's not. I'm trying to think of the materials I haven't done. I've done. So
Yeah.
I'm probably around 30 materials if I were to guess, not including 3D printed materials. That's just
Right.
metals and, different
Well, I know
things.
you've done
I
like
only ever
micarta ones too.
Yep,
So like, I mean,
yep.
you've
I
been all
did
over
some
the place
micarta.
with it.
I only ever did one run of micarta and one run in carbon fiber. So if you see the
Mhm.
carbon fiber ones out there, there's not very many of them. I
Yeah.
want to say maybe I had 20 cut, and that's the only run I've ever
Uh-huh.
done. So they are out there. I've done, solid silver minis, so that's one I'd like to get back into.
Yep.
I'm looking at some 1 troy ounce bars to do some more solid silver minis. I had one person at one point, and this is really what got me into a lot of the exotics. So I don't know if you're familiar with James Ivy. Um, so he was a knife maker. He actually passed away last year. But he kind of got me into some of the exotics. He's the one that supplied some of my exotic materials when I really started getting into Damascus, some things like that. He's the one that, talked me into doing some different things. We were in the process of doing a solid gold, mini
Oh
mini
wow,
chugger, and then,
dude.
then he, unfortunately he passed away, um, unexpectedly. But he was wanting it for his own thing. He was going to supply the materials, and we are going to make sure we got the shavings back and all that. At $1,900 an ounce or whatever it is right now, it's, even the shavings are worth a lot of money. So,
Yeah,
but that
dude.
never happened, unfortunately. But that would have been a pretty amazing one.
Oh, no
But
doubt.
So there's been
Up
some
next,
cool
the
materials.
jewel encrusted royal chugger. Can I
Yeah.
request?
So I've only ever done one superconductor. So there is one OG size superconductor still out there. It was that large diameter superconductor
Uh-huh.
that's still out there, but it's hard to find a piece that's big enough unless it's diagonal
Yeah.
cut to get even an OG chugger out of, because a superconductor is usually only 2 to 2.25 inch round. So
Right.
unless you're getting one of those diagonal cuts, you're not getting a real big piece. So I would like to do some minis. I've never done a mini in superconductor, so
I'll
I'd like to
take a
get some
mini and
minis and
superconductor.
other
I'm just
things.
gonna throw
All
that
right,
out there. I will. I will take one.
I'll hook you up. I'll hook you up. Yeah, I'd like to do that. There's some other materials. I am going to do some more exotics. Those are the materials I love. I mean, yeah, the titanium, copper, brass, stainless. Those ones are kind of my core chameleons. I'm
Yeah.
actually having my first run of aluminum I've ever done. That's the ones
Interesting.
EDC
Okay.
machining is working on. So they'll be aluminum. They're going to be anodized. So
Okay. Oh,
you'll
yeah,
have
that's what I was
options.
gonna ask. So anodization, yeah.
Yep. So he does anodizing as well. So he's actually going to do that for me. He's going to anodize them there in house and send them over. He lives about an hour and a half from me.
Uh-huh.
So I'm hoping to get over to his shop and check some stuff out. But when I went there last time, I believe he had 4 machines, and I think he's probably got a dozen now. I mean, he has just been so busy. Um, but it's so that's one run I have coming.
How does the strength how's the durability on on one of these guys that's aluminum?
Aluminum holds up really well, actually. So I compare aluminum to probably the copper that I have.
Mhm. Okay.
So and I haven't had any issue at all with copper holding up. The only thing I don't like about aluminum is, yeah, you anodize it, but once that gets all scratched up, I mean, you've got to send it off somewhere to get stripped down, and if you want it
Right.
re-anodized, or you tumble it, to get the color off.
Yeah,
But
that process
I,
is totally
yeah,
different,
it's
right?
very different than what I'm doing. You got to use dyes, you got to use a lot of different stuff that I don't see it as something I'll probably ever get into, because to me, I'd rather have a titanium tool than an aluminum. You're going to pay, I
Right.
may pay double, but I'd much rather have titanium. Then I can change it up myself. I don't have to
Sure.
worry about some of those potential durability issues. I mean, if you took one of these copper chameleons and you really grab the body and really grab on the tail, you could probably bend the tail right out. But you're at that point, you're purposely tearing something up. I've never actually ran that test, but I'm guessing you could
Right.
probably, bend that tail out. I'm pretty sure you can do the same with aluminum. I don't see you really doing that very easily with titanium or stainless, or even the brass I use from Spectrum. It's a marine brass
Uh-huh.
that's super hard. I can stamp copper all day long, or I hammer copper, and then you go to hammer brass, and it's a lot harder to do the hammer patterns on it than it is the copper. So it's a
Yeah.
pretty heavy duty material.
Gearing Up is sponsored by Novel Carry. If you're not familiar with them, their goal is to filter out all the noise and help you focus on getting quality gear at fair prices from really talented makers. Whether you're looking for knives, leather goods, pocket tools, beads, or anything EDC related, they've got you covered. Trust me. I've been a customer of Novel Carry in the past. I'm a huge fan of what these guys are doing, and they mean it when they say that this is EDC for the community, EDC by the community, the makers marketplace. These guys are crushing it. Be sure to go check them out. In fact, they've always got a monthly giveaway going on. Head over to novelcarry.com and enter into their monthly giveaway for a chance to win some awesome gear to step up your EDC. Again, that's novelcarry.com. I'm excited again. I was excited coming into this because I knew, like I said, I knew a lot of this stuff, but it's been a while since we've chatted, and I know you've been insanely busy, and it blows my mind that in addition to doing all this, you have a family and school and a full-time job like that. Just so for those that are like,
Yep.
what's up with this TRA guy? Why does he only do 10 at a time or whatever? Like, hey, this is this is a little bit about Taylor that maybe you didn't know. I hope you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I hope that you guys learned a little bit.
Yeah, and I try not to post much. I do post every now and then about kind of what's going on. I've made some apology posts. Hey, sorry, my timelines have slipped. I've got so much going on, but it's not an excuse. If I give somebody a timeline, I expect to meet that timeline. I've currently got a set of Chugger scalpels that should have been done over a month ago, and things have just been so crazy between work and school and all that. that I haven't been able to get to them. As an apology for that, I'm going to do some upgrades to them. I'm going to add some
Yeah.
extra stuff in. I want to make it right. But um, again, that's no excuse. I mean, I should have had them done, and I just haven't been able to, unfortunately.
No,
So
but
I'm going to make it right. Yeah.
yeah, I think between the steps you take to remedy that, and at the same time,
Mhm.
like, I've talked to a bunch of people on this platform, and there's some people that this is their 9 to 5 and they grind it out, and that's one thing. But
Yeah.
you have kind of a juggling act going on with life and school and work and kids and family and all of that stuff. And anybody with family and a day job and all that,
Yeah.
me, I understand 100%. Like, some of that stuff takes priority. Um, and things get pushed back, and that's completely understandable.
I said, I told people, hey, if you want refunded, I'll gladly refund you. This
Yeah.
is my fault. I should have had it done. Um, and I have not had anybody that's been rude about it or anything like that. Everybody understands. We get busy, timelines slip. I told everybody I'm going to make it right. But I think as long as you're upfront about that and you let people know, hey, this is what's going on.
Oh,
Communication is key in
absolutely.
this industry. If you're not
Yeah.
communicating, you're failing. I mean, I've bought some stuff from some companies that communication was absolutely horrid, and I'll never buy
Oh,
from them
no
again.
doubt.
Their things were amazing. I loved them. I still wear some of them today, but
That's
I'll
the
never buy
worst.
another
Yeah.
piece. It's just that's not who I am.
And it stinks to see companies or makers or whatever like that, where
Mm-hmm.
they could have the best product, but if there is just an absolute lack of concern or communication or what, then it just kind of turns me off to them. So I'm with you on that too. But no, I think you've always done a stand up job at that kind of stuff, and
I
I've
appreciate
been
that.
a customer many times, and I will continue to do so, and I
Yes.
know that the folks listening will too. I mean, if anything, your break from the game will show you that, even if you needed to drop everything and leave tomorrow, you can certainly come back, and we're all going to welcome you with open arms, and we're going to continue to buy these sweet little bottle openers because I don't know, they're just awesome. They're a part of
Which is pretty awesome because
the community, in my opinion.
yeah, and you've been there
So,
since the very beginning. You've been one of my biggest supporters, so I definitely appreciate that.
man, and that, I so when I went to go through, like, who should I have on, you coming back and really kicking it into high gear lately, I was like, man, I gotta chat with Taylor. Like, I gotta have him on, and uh that was a no brainer for me. So I'm glad you were able to carve out some time, and same here on my end. Like, this has been one of the biggest blessings of the current pandemic for me, is like I've been able to carve out some time and work on this and connect with some folks that I wouldn't have normally. So it's been good,
No, I
man.
mean
And
you've been killing it. So it's been pretty awesome seeing some people I call friends come on your show. Rustic EDC, Adam, and Hope over there.
Adam's
They've
about to
been
come on
absolutely
for round two.
awesome. Adam, he's a good dude. I tried to meet up with him when I was in Texas, one of my work trips, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
But really, when I first started, I talked about supporting some different things. We supported an orphanage over in Haiti, and we
Uh
made
huh.
these little Haiti. They're just kind of word coins. Years ago, I actually have one. I just realized it's been sitting on my desk in a bag. It never sold. I guess I never tried to sell it. But it
Yeah.
has a little stamp where the orphanage is at in Haiti. But that group really started, and Adam was a big part of that group. Tactile Pterodactyl Knives was in that group. From Dust Goods, Mark Hammer, he was in that group as well, and Randy Robertson. Those were kind of the main four. We had a couple others
Yeah.
that came in after that, but we kind of started this group. We started doing some things, and everybody started having kids, and everybody kind of
Yep.
went their own ways. But I still keep in
Uh
touch
huh.
with all those guys. They're all great. Mark kind of took a long break. He's not doing as much metal customizing anymore. He's making his own leather goods, and they're absolutely awesome. My
Yeah.
watch band that I wear every day was made by Mark. Good dude. I've met up with Mark and Randy when we were down there in Florida. They both live down in there in Florida, so we went to Disney one day,
Uh
and they
huh.
came over and met me and the family, and we hung out at Disney World all day. Just awesome. Good people.
That's what
Um,
it's all about, man.
like
I mean,
that's exactly what it's about. It's community, and this community has stepped up in some huge ways. Not only to support me, but to support others, as I've seen, and things. Even I'm standing, from the outside, people I don't even know, and I see people stepping in for people they don't know in this community and donating or adding stuff for raffles that are going to help to pay for when somebody passes or for somebody's medical
Yeah.
bills they got coming or it's amazing. I mean, it really is an awesome community, and like you said, that's what it's all about.
I can't wait to see what you continue to do. I don't have any other questions really. Except, well, okay, let me I have one more question, but it's not related necessarily. But uh, I'm just excited to see back grinding it out, and obviously to see what you continue doing. But one thing that I try to ask everyone now, whenever we kind of close things out, I always want to know what you're excited about. Doesn't have to be everyday carry stuff. It can be. It can be chugger related or not. But
Mhm.
what's Taylor excited about right now?
Oh man, I'm excited to graduate from college here in a year and a half. That's been my
Right?
biggest thing. I don't think we said it on the show, but so I am going to school full time, taking 12 credits a semester. So I mean that eats up so much of my time. I have a week off this week, which is absolutely amazing. I have like this weight off my shoulders for a week, and then it goes right back to 14 weeks 14 weeks of school again for the fall semester. So it's I'm really excited to have that done. Another thing I'm really excited about. So recently I posted a Moen Works um, knife. So it's a titanium knife with a Warncliffe blade,
Hmm.
made by Jerry Moen. So I had never really heard much about it. I had a friend kind of turned me on to him, and I got one from him. I purchased one from
Uh huh.
him, and I anodized it myself. I actually had Jerry Moen reach out to me to see about doing some anodizing. So in my pile of splash ano over here is 4 sets of knife scales for Jerry Moen knives. He sent me
Ooh,
direct. I'm sending it back to him. He'll reassemble. So I'm going to splash them. They're going to be hopefully epic as they go back to him, and he'll love them, and hopefully that'll open that new relationship with Jerry, and I can do some more stuff with him. So
dude,
I've
I'm
had a
I'm
blast
looking at it right
doing
now. This
flash.
is
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. His
Is
mill
it
pattern on
the
these
mongoose?
blades is awesome. Yep, the mongoose.
Dude,
So it's an
this is killer.
awesome size. It's a great knife. It's long. You don't realize how long it is really by the time you open it up. It's 8 inches long.
Yeah.
Blade length is 3 5/8, so it's not a super huge blade length, but I've got some other knives here that are just massive. I've got my knife from Hoback. It's the
Uh huh.
agency arms collab, that MK5, and it's a big knife. I mean,
Yeah.
when you hold that Moen knife compared to this thing in your hand, it's so slim and small. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite knives today. But I think my favorite knife, and then a buddy gifted this one to me, is my Tough Knives. It's a Fat Belly Switch, and it
Uh huh.
is just super smooth. It's awesome. If any of you know Treetop Dave, he hooked me up with
Yep.
it. When I first got back in, I had mentioned, hey, I have one knife and it's taken apart right now and it's broken. Unfortunately, it's the detent ball and the insert busted. I'm
Uh
kind of
huh.
working on a modified detent insert for it, but he sent me that as just a hey, welcome back. Here you go. Didn't ask for anything in return. I've sent him some stuff just as a thank you, and I plan to send him some more
Yeah.
stuff. But it was kind of right when I first got back, and I absolutely love this knife. Tough knives are absolutely amazing. I'd love to get more as I start to collect again and start to build my collection back up. But who
Yeah.
knows? Priorities. Who knows if that'll happen or not? But
Right.
it's I've sold most of the things I owned in the EDC community. I do still have some pretty cool stuff that was made for me back in the day from Key Bar back when they started kind of going away from Key Bars. I've got an awesome full aluminum EDC tray and their quick draw pen holder and some things like that on my desk here.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to get some new things as I get back into collecting, and that's really kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Right on, man. Well, listen, it has been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to seeing what you continue to do. And if you guys are new around here, be sure to go follow TRA Designs on Instagram. Send him some love. Let him know where you came from. But I think that's all I got for you, man. I wish you and the family the best, and I can't wait to talk to you again, man. We'll have to do this again sometime.
I appreciate it, Greg. Thanks for having me on, brother.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds great.
Thanks. Peace.